It took me 50 years to learn what we're going to talk about in this video today because I've been reflecting on this. And, if I could look back and tell my 25-year-old self some of the things I shouldn't be doing, the warning signs, then maybe my life now would have been less painful. The whole journey would have been more fulfilling. I know if you're a woman over 50, you're going to be watching going, I know that one. I know that one. I was molded into someone who wasn't really me. And that affects your mental health, your emotional health, being careless around men, relationships, the future I wanted. So if you recognize some of these, let me know. If you're a young woman watching, this might be helpful for you too. Because when I was growing up in 1970s England, it wasn't like it is now, like lots of images of women, black, beautiful women everywhere on social media and so on. In 1970s England, magazines and films, the image of beauty was white. The image of success was white, unless you were in sport or music. Maybe in film, there were black women, there are kind of hypersexualized images. So I absorbed all of that before I could even fight it. And then I was the geek, the ugly duckling. So you suck all of that in, right? And if you're different, if you feel you're different, you're taller, you've got red hair where everyone else has got blonde hair, you're shorter, you have a disability, it affects you. You're trying to fit in, you're trying to assimilate. Nothing I ever did really fit. I was trying to put myself in a box of wanting to be white. Then I reach a newsroom where, society compounded the view because everybody in the newsroom was like, whoa, Marv, look at you. You're brilliant. You're exceptional. Wow. I wasn't doing anything different. I wasn't breaking any sweat. And apparently the psychologists call this like a double consciousness. You realize how the world sees you, right? And for me, that shaped everything. And to that younger self, I'd tell her, you don't have to earn your place in a room that wasn't built for you. You just got to walk in and do the thing. Stop shrinking yourself. Stop trying to prove yourself. Just be you. And if you're in your 50s like me and you stripped everything away, all that stuff that you were told you should be, that you ought to be, like you must be, what would you have left? But then what I didn't account for was how hard the world was going to make sure that I never showed my feelings. And is that just me, or are you nodding as well? Because I'm sure you've heard of like the stereotypes that black women are labelled with. She's strong. She can bounce back. She doesn't cry. I wore all of those badges through my 20s and my 30s. She's always ahead. She's always looking forward. She's always a go-getter. And have you hid anything that has cost you a lot? I hid my depression 20 years ago. I hid it from friends and family. And when they found out, they were in shock. Marv, you're the strong one. I was strong for everyone else. And I wore that cloak and I hid myself, stupidly hid myself. And a sociologist calls that emotional labor, and they said you get exhausted from that. And the exhaustion doesn't get any easier in midlife, in your 40s and your 50s, because you hit perimenopause, you hit menopause. It strips away all the coping mechanisms that you ever had. And, it's time to stop smiling. And I've done that for sure. I'm facing a massive health challenge. I've got to have a big operation. And I am petrified. And when I told some people, they were like, oh, you'll be all right. Like belittling my experience and making me feel silly for being scared. So I'm not doing that anymore. So if you're in that cycle, listen, don't minimize your feelings to make other people feel easier. It's okay to be scared. I'm happy. I'm wearing my scaredness. Just say to someone, I want you to sit with me in these feelings. Allow me to have these feelings. And if they don't have those feelings, or they don't want to sit with you with those feelings, they're not worth you having them in your life. To a younger woman in her 20s, just try and resist putting the armor on. Because once the armor's on, you struggle to take it off. And it could suffocate you. Right, and I've felt that suffocation. It's not nice. But then after finding that strength to stop kind of performing, I came face to face with something that really nobody warns you about. The red flags that come up with someone you're attracted to, and the psychologists have named it. They call it limerence, like your obsession, your intense infatuation with someone else, someone that you're attracted to, and how not knowing the difference can get you into a hell of trouble. And I hope this isn't just me, but have you known, and you've deeply known, that you were in a situation, you knew it was wrong, but you did it anyway? Yes, been there. And the thing is, society tells you sexual chemistry is a sign, that intensity, that electricity. When you meet a guy, listen, in my mid-20s, I swung from ugly duckling, jam jar bottom glasses to contact lenses, and all the guys were rushing me. And then you think about like the hormones, your hormones were raging, they were chaotic, right? And I followed my raging hormones too much, too often, and they nearly got me into trouble. And of course, sometimes there's an electricity of certain men, even if they were unavailable. You feeling chosen and seen and alive is incredible. But they dump you, right? They go back to their wives. They only want you part-time. For me, that mindset was so ingrained in me in my 20s and 30s that I love these irresistible, unattainable men, that it almost cost me meeting my husband. To my younger self, I would say, yes, the feeling's real, but it's not evidence, so slow down. Because, you know, the red flags are not obstacles to the relationship. They're probably information for you. And if everything is on his terms and not your terms, you gotta walk away. If there's no bargaining, if there's no compromise, you know, and it's taken me decades to get there. That intensity is not intimacy. That intensity is not intimacy. And I know, you know, if you're a woman over 50 like me and you're watching, you're going, you got your own version of that story too, haven't you? But then, you know, so I sorted out the men. I sorted out the armor. I kind of better knew who I was, but still I found myself shrinking, and it wasn't because of anything else. It was because of myself. And again, you know, the psychologists say that we have within us as humans like a drive, an involuntary drive called the social comparison theory, right? We measure ourselves against other people. Social media heightens that, you know, the more we compare upwards, the worse we feel. And as women, that is exacerbated, right? The TV shows, the gossip columns, they all do it. You know, the world sells comparison, actually. It sells it as ambition, doesn't it? But it's the exact opposite. It is not healthy competition. And I realized that a little bit too late. So I was looking at who I should be in my 20s. I should have lost the puppy fat. I didn't. In my 30s, I should be well into my career now. I wasn't. In my 40s, but you should be married with children now. I never did. You know, and I look back now and I was literally staring at my own failures in my mirror. So how do you look at your life? Because what can you be building? Like a business, hobby, new skills in the hours you're spending looking at someone else's life instead of living yours? So if you're a young woman in your 20s, in your 30s, take the anger, the jealousy, use it as fuel. And as women over 50 and having this gift of having lived decades, one of the beautiful things is that you stop caring. You stop caring and it feels amazing. Now, I can't go back and say any of this to the girl I used to be, like the 20-year-old Marv. But if you've got some of these things going on for you right now, and it might be whatever age you're at, it doesn't matter, but I hope this video is an awakening for you. So maybe share this video with another young woman who needs to hear it too, another woman in midlife, a friend. Thanks for watching. Go and check out this other video, and I'll see you there.